So yeah, I work for Microsoft, but I'm just going to give you a bit of a heads up here on where we are with a couple of things. We're going to talk about gaming. We're going to talk about some of the projects we're doing. We're going to talk about quantum computing. So there's a lot we're going to cover, and then we'll open it up to Q&A at the end, okay? So we're in this situation at the minute in the world where AI is polarizing people. Okay, some people like using AI, some people don't. Some people are using AI, some people are not. Put your hands up if you have used AI. Yeah, that's good, right? There's about 90% of you said you've used AI. Some people don't, though, right? And think about it with your parents. Think about it with your neighbors, your family, who's using it, who's not. Now, I got 3 kids, and all of them use AI differently. My oldest son, who's in year 12, he doesn't use AI a lot at all. My son, who's in year 11, uses it all the time. And my daughter, who's in year 7, uses it all the time. But she uses it on TikTok and in all the different apps there. And she's talking to those kind of apps. But it is interesting because what we're getting is a big equity divide with AI. So your school might have banned AI. Your school might not have banned AI. You know, one of your teachers might let you use AI, one of your teachers might not let you use AI. So we're in this position where, you know, it's quite stressful, but we do need to be thinking about some of the ethical boundaries here. So I know I put Thanos on the other side of that, but, you know, it's not about challenging AI is bad. It's about thinking about the ethical use of AI, right? Now, I'll show you the Super Bowl ad, and I showed this last year as well, but I think it's important just to kind of ground ourselves on AI.
Morning.
Watch me.
Just watch me now. Just watch me now. I got something for you, a little more for you. You won't believe your eyes. Just watch me now. I got something for you, a little more for you. You won't believe your eyes. Just watch me now. Just watch me now.
So disclaimer, just so you're aware, you know, lots of people are talking about ChatGPT by OpenAI, right? You've probably all heard of that. We basically own 49% of OpenAI. We have, since we're in the founding members of that kind of team, right? And we've kind of put a lot of investment in there because it runs on our cloud called Azure. Now, what we've done is embedded all of those models that OpenAI came up with into our own stuff. So Copilot is what we call ChatGPT, essentially, in the Microsoft ecosystem, okay? You can download that app on your mobile phone today, so can your parents, so can anybody, and you can use that as a consumer app, right? There's also a flavor for schools and enterprises and businesses, which don't train the model, but there's a consumer version that you can use, and if you've got an Android or an Apple device, you can actually just get using that now. And I'd encourage you to make sure you got an AI on your handheld device, your mobile. You know, you might be using things like Android and using Google Gemini on there. You might have your kind of Apple device and you might be using Apple Intelligence. But then, you know, encourage you to kind of look at all the different models out there because they're very, very cool, right? Now, everybody's talking about AI, and I'm giving you a bit of a brief rundown here just to remind you, because we've got to say this all the time to all the adults I work with as well. The buzz that everybody's talking about at the minute isn't just AI. AI is bigger than AI. We were doing AI since the 1950s, right? Inside that AI is a thing called machine learning, which you can do to predict your NAPLAN results and things like that, okay? And then inside that is even deeper learning, and inside deep learning, there's generative AI, which is what everybody's calling AI at the minute. So it's only a subset of the entire AI thing that people are talking about, right? So when people are talking to you and they're saying, oh, AI is all great, they actually usually talking at the minute about generative AI, which is your large language models, all right? Which will do things like text, audio, video, and we look at some examples of that. It's moved along since I did this presentation last year. We got some stuff in the games industry now that's really, really taken off well. But you've probably seen a lot of these. If you're doing coding, our first tool that was out there was GitHub Copilot. You can download that for free as a student. You go onto Google or Bing and type in GitHub Student Developer Backpack, I think it's called. And you can download that for free with your education email address. And with that, you can say, code me a game in Python for scissors, paper, stone, document the code, explain this code to me, all that kind of stuff, yeah? Go through and make our code more efficient, change it from Python to C# for me. And that, you know, when people are like Zuckerberg are talking about, you know, computers actually, or coders actually becoming made redundant, and Salesforce last week said they're not going to employ any more coders. That's because of these kind of tools. You're still going to need coders, but it's about managing these kind of things that are embedded in your development IDE environments, right? So cut into it. Prompting. Loads of people still don't know about prompting. Think about what you want to do for your own prompting, because people are still using it like a search engine. You know, type in something in, it doesn't come back. It's about having a conversation when you're interacting with AI, right? And it's like a role play. You are a computing teacher teaching year 12 enterprise computing. This is where the syllabus is. I am now going to talk to you about questions. So you create your own tutor, right? You were like my teacher teaching English at year 12. This is where my syllabus is. You point to the PDF, and then you're away to go. Yeah. So people are creating agents to do those things now. This year is kind of the year of agentic AI. Agents everywhere. So that's what you kind of got to think about, right? But you got to think about how you're prompting that kind of stuff. It's not search. It's a continual conversation. And if they get it wrong, go, no, that's not exactly right. If you say please to large language models, they usually answer you better. and if you say, my job is on the line, don't get this answer wrong, they think about it a bit more, and they're usually more accurate, right? Kind of weird, very spooky. But then what we did, we grabbed the Copilot stuff, and you can use that on your phone and whatever, but we embedded that now into Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Teams, and all that kind of stuff, right? Now, if you've got an Office Family subscription at home, you may or may not, depending on if you're the owner of that subscription, you can have access to this, right? So technically, we got this product that sits inside PowerPoint, and you can say, I need to do a 10-slide PowerPoint presentation on Anzac Cove. This is the rubric. I need to get an A grade. And it'll do it for you in front of your eyes. It'll create it all for you, yeah? I need to create a policy for bullying in my school. It needs to cover all these particular areas, and it'll do it for you. So we're in this area where assessment is the efficacy, the validity of assessments you're doing in school is like down the pan, really, because people put things through Turnitin and those kind of things, and those models don't work, right? AI detectors do not work. So there's a big thing in teachers. So the teachers in the room have probably been thinking about this over the last couple of years. How do I assess my students if I don't know the work that they're doing is actually, you know, hasn't been done by AI? So it's interesting, but this is all embedded inside Microsoft 365. So essentially, you know, summarize my emails, create me a compare documents, create me a document on this, create me a PowerPoint on this. And that's what I said at the beginning. We're getting equity issues now because some parents might buy that for you. Some parents might not. Some of you may have got access to an AI tool. Some of you may not. So this divide is getting bigger.
Whoa. Straight to the top, never going down, don't wait for the drop. Stand still, that's the motto, yeah. Brand new bands for the auto, oh. Foot to the ground, full throttle. Big energy for the night like lotto. Y'all talk lots, never this quiet. Life like a Seinfeld plot. Vault full of songs, all of them bombs. Something like a minefield guy, boom. Get it, tickets running out quick. Bet it, never get it out big. Said it, never had to shout it. They said I couldn't ever do it, okay, how's this? Fit a week worth of work in a minute. Machine well oiled, you know how I stay efficient. To-do list written, I do this different. Hold up, wait a minute, I ain't finished. Okay. Look, flows the same now. Paved the way, the snakes and fakes are chased out. Back to back to back, I changed the pace now. Had to stack the cash until the bank's out. Straight to the top, never going down, don't wait for the drop.
We just had Brisbane Catholic Education in Australia. They've bought this for 78,000 of all their students, basically. So all of their students are going to get access to that tool. Because it is expensive, though, right? But it's worth thinking about what tools you got access to. Now, when you were school, you might be using things like Google or whatever, and you might be using Gemini. You might have like add-ins and things. But just be careful if you're using any random tools. I'm not advocating a particular tool here. Just be careful because you don't want to be putting personally identifiable information, PII, into lots of these consumer-based models, especially for your teachers, right? So if you're doing a lesson plan or you need to differentiate for Robert who really loves cars or whatever in your classroom, you shouldn't be using consumer tools. You need to be using ones you've got access to in your school system, right? So that's the importance to think about that. Now, then we go on to multimodal AI, right? Now, this is expanding on where we were last year, and I think that's what I do when I was speaking to you peers last year. We kind of talk through similar kind of themes here, right? But it's expanding even further, right? So I showed them this last year, which was about the way you can use Sora, which is from OpenAI, to generate video, right? So imagine you've got a computer game and then suddenly you say, well, I need that game now underwater, or I need it, what's the next animation that comes up? In claymation, or I need it horse and cart rather than that Bugatti or whatever, right? And the list goes on. I want it in the desert. I want it pixelated. I want it in the winter. I want that game. Oh, let me go back there. I want that game in, the 1920s or whatever. So you can see where this is going to move, and the AI generation is going to have an impact on gaming, movies, and the creative industries, right? Show this video again just so you can see what I mean by that. This ant does not exist. The ant tunnel does not exist. The light doesn't exist. It is just a prompt, say, and his mate up there doesn't exist either. That ant is purely AI generated by Sora, okay? Just by a text prompt. Show me an ant walking through an ant's nest. Similarly, this one, it looks like Santorini or somewhere in Italy. This place doesn't exist. It's like, show me a European city like Italy on Lake Como with all these houses and cafes and sea and boats, and like a fantastical prompt, but this doesn't exist. This place doesn't exist, right? It's very hard. If you're over 18, when you talk to people over 18, they go, no, it must exist. Definitely exists. It doesn't exist, okay? The boats don't exist. The sea doesn't exist. It's being created by Sora. Now, where we've come now is even further on with gaming. So when we're thinking about gaming in this area, we've got all of those models now. So there's a tool we've got called Microsoft Muse, which actually allows you to then actually create games and environments immersively on the fly, right? So if you're interested in games design, Microsoft Muse we released like 2 weeks ago. And you can use large language model text prompts to create games. Okay, which is amazing. But there's also projects that we've been doing for quite some time here in Australia because there's other AI projects. We've got lots of environmental issues in Australia, as you all know. We've got projects which are using AI. These projects have been going for 3-4 years now. They're still really successful, and they're managing the habitats in Kakadu for the actual green grasses where the magpie geese are kind of roosting. Feral pigs are going across and eating all the eggs and the turtle eggs. So we've got drones, like you've seen Adrian out there. He's got a drone that follows you around. Have a look if you haven't seen it. And we've got drones that go up and down the coast and look for feral pigs using AI and cognitive services to identify where the pigs are and move them on because they're eating all the turtles. We can't, again, go into the harbour in Darwin. Anybody know why you can't go to the harbour in Darwin? Crocodiles, yeah, exactly, because they'll eat you. Brilliant. You can only say that in Australia. It's great. I love it. Crocodiles are great. They should eat everybody. And then the police. Yeah, we're doing lots of projects around the police force in Western Australia. This is going from strength to strength. This project, when I shared this first, was really new. Now what we're doing is connecting to all kinds of social media platforms, connecting to all kinds of other signals now in Australia to catch all the baddies. Lots of stuff happening in sport, lots of stuff happening in gaming industry. If you're thinking about games and you're really interested in that, use Microsoft Azure PlayFab servers. They're really, really cool. And that allows you to kind of extend your games out really, really well using like cloud. And we got lots of these projects that are kicking off, even projects up in space. And then moving on to Xbox, right? And just a reminder for Xbox again. 3 years ago when I talked about this was like a brand new beta project or product. If you've got Game Pass Ultimate, today you can play and stream your games on any device, right? So that means that you can go, if you've got a Windows-based laptop, you can get the Xbox app. If you've got an iPad, if you've got a MacBook, you get the Xbox app, and you can stream Xbox games from our data centers onto your device. We did I got on the train in North Sydney about a month ago, and it was all the train carriages on the Metro green, and it was like, this is an Xbox. And this was a big campaign called This is an Xbox. And it basically shows all these other things, like a mobile phone. We're basically now saying any device with the internet can be your Xbox. So what does that do for PlayStation console wars? It means that we don't need to worry about hardware. We can be more sustainable. We don't need to make new Xboxes every year and all that kind of stuff. So it's really, really interesting. And again, there's a whole heap of stuff. If you're interested in like gaming and all of these kind of things, you can actually download Minecraft now and have a bit of a play. There's a lot of AI stuff in there. There's a lot of coding resources in there to have a play with. But you know, we try and extend a lot of the tools to help you in different areas. So have a look at some of these things. We're releasing one. I don't know if I can tell you. Can I tell you? Oh, tonight there's a brand new game landing in Minecraft Education Edition, and we're doing a really, really cool game related to the movie for Minecraft, yay, which is coming out in 3 weeks' time. So that'll be really interesting as well. But when we're looking at these projects, you know, we're going to think about the real-world impact that the technologies have in Australia.
The name Wodjamuk is actually the Noongar name for Rottnest Island, and this island is actually called the Island of the Spirits. So it has quite a significance to Aboriginal people and to the local Wodjuk Noongar.
I won't show all this video, but you know, this is a real project that we're doing at the minute.
For many reasons, because there are a few places in the world where you can actually see and experience and exchange with an endangered species.
DNA Zoo is a global initiative where we're trying to genomically empower all the threatened and vulnerable species. Right here on Rottnest Island, we have these really special, smallest little kangaroo family marsupials, the quokkas, and there are no genomic resources till date available for them. The University of Western Australia, in partnership with Microsoft, are developing these little scatter retrieval drones, which will be autonomous.
So they've got drones that pick up quokka poo and take it back to the university to sample DNA.
Unique signatures to be able to monitor the wildlife. We collect massive amounts of data, given that we have 58 collaborating partners spread across 8 different countries, and this is growing really, really fast. So working together, being able to share the data fast and across different partners, we will be able to achieve conservation goals faster for the local communities and at a global level at the same time. I'm extremely proud to be able to participate in the AI for Earth program because it gives us connections, it gives us learnings from other fields which we could easily deploy in our program and make the vision go further.
I'm very excited about work that AI for Earth grant recipients all around the world are doing in order to make a difference using machine learning. The work that DNAZU and the University of Western Australia are doing is so exciting because this is exactly the kind of workload that was made for the cloud. The power of machine learning and Microsoft's AI can be used to solve some of the world's hardest biodiversity challenges.
The vision for DNAZU is to build a data legacy for generations to come. In the future, my children may not be able to see thylacine, but at least they will have data to learn the lessons to preserve the species for the future.
Right, really, really cool stuff. You can see that video on YouTube if you're interested. And all of those articles and things that we looked at today. Now, quantum computing. That's moved on quite a lot, right? I'm going to jump past that video first of all. I'll end with that and then we'll go to some Q&A. But basically, there's a Majorana particle that you all probably know of, don't you? Yes, Dan, right? But basically, this guy on the left-hand side here, Torre Majorana, he basically was a physicist who was looking at particles that could maintain multiple states, right? Very complicated, really small particles that he'd had a theory about and that he thought would be really, really useful. But nobody had ever found this particle and worked out what we could even do with it, even if we did find it. So loads of companies, Google, Microsoft, IBM, been trying to make quantum computers for quite some time. And what we've done is manage to actually, last week, develop the first quantum chip. That's what it looks like there. It's called the Majorana 1. So that's actually now available for people to develop on. If you wanted to develop in quantum, you can talk about Q# as a language, and you can start to really think about where quantum computers come. Because everybody's talking about AI and Gen AI at the minute, but we've now got quantum computing in the palm of our hands, okay, that we can actually start to do things with. This is going to have a profound effect on everything. So before we go to Q&A, I'm going to show you this video, which is pretty cool, about quantum.
Houston, we see you. We have a go. Over.
When we talk about quantum computing, it's a completely different game.
Quantum computing will enable us to solve problems that currently take longer than the lifetime of the universe in seconds, hours, or days.
We completely reconceive the space in which we do computation.
Quantum computing is like going from crawling to going to a different planet. It's different.
It's only natural that we would want to use the world's most powerful device to combat the world's most challenging problems.
We could attack global warming.
Security,
What are the boundaries of machine learning?
fighting diseases. The possibilities of quantum computers are endless. Microsoft has the best and the brightest working on this problem.
It's really happening. Progress is very fast. And we're building a quantum computer.
What the world wants to know is what happens when we turn the machine on.
What problems will be solvable with a computer that computes in a billion parallel universes at the same time?
Majorana 1. That's what you need to know. That's the actual chip that's been created. Okay, so there's some interesting things there. There are lots of courses available for you. TAFE New South Wales, so a heap of courses. If you wanted to do generative AI, and they're free courses, a lot of these. Type in free TAFE courses. You can do them online. They take about 5 hours to do. But use some of these things, yeah? Share some of this information with your friends, and really keep learning and kind of moving through with this. Right, questions? Yeah, so he uses maths to kind of, a bit like TVs do, they don't send all of the pictures through. They just send the ones that are changing. And also what we're doing with that in games. So the questions about game kind of quality and video quality. Obviously you need a good internet connection for the game stuff. But the other thing is all the new PCs you get now have got NPUs in them. So you offload all the generative AI workloads from your CPU and GPU to a neural processing unit. So that means that, you can do on-board game kind of rendering and stuff. So that's where that's going. The new range of Xboxes will have all that NPU technology in it. That's a great question. Any other ones?
Do you think that AI is fundamentally problematic in the sense that it is reducing reliance on actual deep understanding and is kind of contributing to students having something so easily at their fingertips that they can instead use to learn? And how would you kind of implement strategies to reduce this in the classroom?
That's an amazing question. Yeah, I'll have to ask my AI the answer to that one. Yeah, no, you're right. It's really, really important. And like we've had this before in education. Teachers went mad when calculators came out. They're like, oh my God, nobody's going to be able to count anymore. Calculators. When the pen came out, the same kind of thing. But it does offload your cognitive services to something else. So we do have to be careful of that. You're absolutely right. But it's going to be more of a guide and like an intern rather than something that's going to be driving you like really, really deeply to kind of think, take your complete thoughts away from you. It's more of an intern. But that's a great question.
Do you have any worries about the possibilities of quantum computing? And if so, what are they?
Security is the main one, because security will be breached really quickly, encryption, algorithms, and security. That's the kind of main thing, really. Obviously, if you could do things really, really quickly, then we should be able to have more benefits than negatives. But when you're looking at things like security and the bad elements, so that would be the main call out that I put for quantum. Who's the next one? Do you want to pass a mic to somebody while everybody else is coming in? Yeah, go on.
Can you define quantum, and what are some of the biggest possibilities of solutions that you think quantum will give us?
So quantum computing, classical computing is ones and zeros, binary, right? So you can only do a certain amount of things. The lights are either on or they're off. What quantum computing does is means that states can be in multiple states. You haven't just got ones and zeros. You can have 1 and 0. You can have atoms in 2 states at the same time simultaneously. So what that means is if you augment that, you can do billions and billions and billions of calculations every second, right? It augments the speed of everything. So what that means is we can get, the large language models we train in at the minute through OpenAI might take a year to train or 6 months to train. You can train those large language models in, a matter of hours. You can do things like prediction of global warming and big data problems really, really quickly. Maybe even predict lottery results. Woo! But you know what I mean? Those kind of things happen really, really quickly. So that's what quantum brings us.
So you keep mentioning the pros. What other cons?
Security, because it's moving so quickly.
Negatives.
Say again?
Like AI has positives and negatives.
Yeah.
What would negatives be for quantum?
I just mentioned, so it's going to break all of the security algorithms, right? So everything, your banking, your internet, HTTPS kind of protocols, everything we do, transmission protocols, telephony, satellite communications. Quantum computing means that we can break encryption, which we rely on for global communications, military movements, wars, satellites, GPS. Once you can actually decrypt that really, really quickly, then we're in trouble in all of those areas. Banking, all sorts. Any other questions?
Just wondering, how long has Microsoft been working on quantum computing?
We started in 2017 with the University of Sydney here. We've got a station Q there. So in Sydney on that topological qubit stuff since 2017. And the release for that chip was 2 weeks ago. You can download Q Sharp SDK and code in quantum. That's the language to code in quantum computing. It's a bit like C Sharp. You can download the SDK for that for free and learn how to code for that already. Go on.
In the future, will Majorana 1 or Majorana 2, as an example, be a commercially available chip for laptops?
Yes. Yeah, we'd hope so. They'll first of all push it into the Azure data centers so people can use them because they're quite volatile. But then, over time, they'll be smaller, they'll be more mobile, and you'll be able to utilize it. They're quite small already, they're the size of your hand.
Besides being like accessible to Microsoft, what other benefits are what is Copilot different? Why is Copilot different than other AI chat rooms?
Because it's using the OpenAI standards, right? And we embedding that into businesses. So we've actually got lots of governance and security around it. And it's all processed. The Microsoft stuff is all, if you think about companies, Google are an advertising company, Microsoft's a software company, Apple's a hardware company, right? We use our Copilot tools are used in banks and businesses and schools. So we've got to have what's called enterprise tools around that to give you better security and governance around your tools. So if you're using Copilot in a school, say, you can actually, your IT administrators can actually bring all the governance around that, understand what the security is, understand what people are putting in there. If it's bringing up if people are searching for really bad stuff, like how to make bombs or something like that, you can actually do all of that security. So Microsoft Copilot's got all that security layer in it. Whereas if you're getting a random tool from the internet, a consumer tool, it doesn't have that in it. Okay? Any other questions? Are we still waiting for people to come in?
Does Microsoft have any opportunities after high school?
Yes, actually. So Georgie, you can speak to Georgie. She went through her early in career pathway. After high school, we usually have an intern program via universities, but with all of this stuff, you can go to Microsoft Learn today, and you can find all of the stuff I showed you there. You can go to Microsoft Learn and learn cloud computing, learn quantum, learn security, learn all of those kind of things. I'm just trying to reset my slides to the beginning here for the next group. But you can, and if you've got those skills, you can apply to become a software design, software engineer, tester, game software tester, all of that kind of stuff, right? So definitely do your own learning that way. People are going to use it for different things, like any a new technology. So I think what we need to think about is, it's going to go more into video, more into audio, more into sound, and then those kind of multimodal elements. That's where my thoughts are of it going, because it's already there. And it's also going to become cheaper. What will eventually happen is all of these random little models that people will end up using, like random things which are appearing now, it'll end up we'll all end up using one or two models. We might use a Microsoft one and a Google one eventually, but there's a lot of different tools out there. So I think we'll see a rationalization of that and more cool stuff around video and scientific stuff and maths as well. Yeah.
How does quantum computing work?
So what quantum computing does, we need an half an hour to think about that, but actually what normal classical computers do is they operate on ones and zeros. Either electricity goes through it or it doesn't. And what quantum computing does is those positions can be on and off. So you can have binary one and zeros simultaneously. So that means your processing power becomes exponentially better, right? So it means you don't just only have electricity going through 1 and 0, it can be in multiple different states. So it's very hard to measure, and that's why this new breakthrough has been really, really good. But it just means that everything's going to be really, really fast. It's just going to apply to all the GPUs, all the NPUs that we've got. Everything's just going to be faster and faster because you can do more calculations quickly. So it's going to have an effect on security. It's going to have an effect on graphics and all that kind of stuff. I could spend hours on quantum.
How do you think AI will affect different places, like countries or like cities, like Liverpool?
Different countries, that's a really good point. So I think, interestingly, we've seen a lot of usage of AI in Africa. You'd think you wouldn't, but there's a lot of mobile technology and mobile kind of penetration signals and devices in Africa. So some of the African nations are leading the way with it. Are we going to see a big equity gap, though? Estonia have just given ChatGPT to every single student in their entire ecosystem, right? New South Wales have created a bot for 1 million students in New South Wales here. So even in Australia, 1 million users. In New South Wales, public education, 0 in Victoria, right? So it's not even between countries. It's going to be, and maybe your school might use AI. If you're in New South Wales Department of Education, you've got an AI bot, then New South Wales Ed Chat. If you're in a school down the road, you might not have got access to it. So we get these big equity gaps, which goes back to my beginning slide. Good question.
How is AI going to affect children's learning at school? Like, is it going to negatively impact it, or?
Yeah, I think so. Like if I look at my kids, with the research we've actually seen in Brisbane Catholic education is that the well-being of students have gone up, because at the high-stakes testing, the learning and revision process is easier because you've got your own tutor, right? You can make your own tutor. You aren't going to wait till tomorrow to ask your teacher. People are having constant conversations with the AI and their agents saying, explain that to me more. Can you explain that to me in a different way? Can you explain it to me like a 5-year-old? So we're seeing, people's well-being going up. People are not getting stressed out for exams. And there's lots of empirical research now saying how it's affecting people. We know it affects teachers in schools by saving 9.3 hours a week using M365 Copilot, because you've done that study. But in terms of student learning, that's the next thing, because students are not really using it en masse at the minute. But great question. I think we're already seeing tools which in your products you're seeing. We've got tools in Microsoft called Read in Progress to help kids read. So there's a lot in that area as well. One more question. Who's got a mic? Oh, yeah, okay.
So what separates Microsoft Copilot from other AI engines like ChatGPT or DeepSeek?
So ChatGPT is the same model. So it's the same. We own pretty much 49% of OpenAI. So there's the same models that OpenAI is using. So if people are going, I want to use ChatGPT, Copilot's got the same model in this. It's the same, except Copilot's got enterprise protection on it. DeepSeek, very different model, comes out of China. You've got to be very careful with all the different models that are landing at the minute. If you want to test the models, ask really interesting societal conversations with it. If you ask ChatGPT what it thinks of divorce, and you ask DeepSeek what it thinks of divorce, it'll come up with very different answers. Ask political things in there as well, who owns Taiwan and things like that, and you'll know where the different models are coming from and what their views are. So you've got to be very careful with bias in some of the models, and you've got to be very, very careful with where your personally identifiable information is going. Similar to TikTok, why that was banned in the US. We've got to think about that for our language models as well.
How much cooling would a marijuana one chip take? So how much cooling would you need for the chip?
The chip itself is that I know for quantum computing you need very, very cold environments, right? So that chip is actually stable outside those cold environments. So I don't think it needs extreme cooling. Because you could see that was in somebody's hand there. I'm guessing it would need some extreme cooling, but I haven't seen it in action in an actual device. I think it's going to be in large computers and in Microsoft Azure data centers in the first instance. But good question, though. Thank you for your questions today. Georgie and I are around. Thanks, all. Great question.